It was such a treat to pick up these Backlist Lisa Jewell titles that were on my shelves, and today I am going to be ranking and reviewing these 4 books. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel at least twice a week, and then movie reviews or book to movie content here at the weekend. All my social links are in the description box below, including my blog and my Goodreads, so you can keep up with my reading and watching and coffee drinking in between times. It is National Coffee Day here today, so happy coffee day to you. You know I am invested in coffee and coffee drinking if you've ever watched any of my vlogs. I am also very passionate about this particular author. I have been a fan of hers since her first novel, Ralph's Party, and these books have been sitting unread on my shelves for a while. As you know, I am trying to get to some of the unread books behind me here, and so I decided that the month of September would be the month I would pick up one of these books each week. I have a whole Lisa Jewell playlist, so I will leave it linked up above there. There's some reviews and some event vlogs in there as well. So yeah, I'm going to talk about these books and I'm going to give you a mini review of each one. If you would like, I will leave timestamps in the description box so that if you just want to hear my thoughts on Vincent Joy, you can just go and hear my thoughts on Vincent Joy. So I will be saving my favourite for last, but it was just such a treat to read all of these because Lisa Jewell's writing is just so fantastic. You're immediately put into this world with these characters. You're getting to know these characters. She saves some really crucial details about the plot and about the characters. And these are all kind of pre her thriller writing days, so you can see like little things in there that like lead into the fact that she writes these amazing thrillers now, because yeah, all these details that we get to hear maybe just at the end of a chapter at a crucial point when you want to stop reading but you just have to keep on reading. And so as a whole, it was just really great to read all of these, and I actually did do all of them on audiobook, but I'll talk a little bit more about that as I kind of read into them. So let's talk about One Hit Wonder first of all. I would say that possibly this one didn't work as well on audiobook just because it jumps about between a couple of different times. So Be Bearhorn had a #1 hit single in 1985 and was never heard of again. 15 years later, she's found dead and nobody seems to care. Anna Wills has always daydreamed about her exotic half-sister she hasn't seen for years. When she comes to London to clear her flat, Anna begins to unravel Bee's life, her missing cat, her secret country cottage, and her mysterious weekends away. So instead of going back to Devon, Anna tracks down Bee's closest friends, Mad Lol and strange silent Flint, and together they set out to discover exactly what happens to Bee, the one-hit wonder. So yeah, the reason I think that this didn't work as well as an audiobook is because it jumps between kind of Bee's story and Anna's story, and we flip back and forth to find out the mystery of what happened to Bee and why. And so in a sense, this one feels a little bit like The House We Grew Up In, which was definitely the first Lisa Jewell novel that I read that was a little bit darker, but we've got letters and things like that, so it also feels a little bit like The Truth About Melody Brown, but we're finding out the truth about Bee. And I think that the only reason that this was my least favourite out of all 4, like I say, I loved reading all 4 of them. I think that's why that I didn't connect with this one as much was sometimes as I was listening I hadn't realised that we'd switched times and characters. You have to be definitely very carefully listening to make sure whether you're in Bee's story or in Anna's story. There are definitely some darker themes in this book, but there's also a little bit of romance and a little bit of family drama in this one, which is what I liked in Lisa's earlier novels, the fact that we do have like a bit of romance in there and a bit of kind of family drama aspects, dynamics worked into the book, and Lisa Jewell writes about these things really, really well. And so yeah, if you liked The House We Grew Up In or The Truth About Melody Brown but haven't read this one yet, then you will definitely enjoy this one. But recommend doing it as a Kindle or a hard copy if you can. But the audiobook was well narrated, so yeah, also did enjoy it. I just found it difficult sometimes keeping track of the flip between the two. Then we have the one that has a different title here in the US. So this is 31 Dream Street, which in the US is called Roommates Wanted. And obviously the roommates are wanted at 31 Dream Street. And this cover's a real interesting cover. It's like, it's a slightly larger book. If I show you the difference between Vincent Joy and this one, you can see it's like a larger copy. I don't know why it's larger. I didn't think it was a proof copy, but it doesn't have a price on the back. Maybe it was a proof copy, I don't know. But I've only seen this one cover. The Roommates Wanted cover and the 31 Dream Street cover as they stand now for the audiobook, basically the same. But yeah, is happiness inside? Who lives in a house like this through the keyhole? I feel like I should have done that in my David Frost voice. We watched Frost Nixon the other day and I just couldn't not hear him saying, who lives in a house like this? An air hostess, a teenager, a wild-haired recluse, a rock chick, an old man, a human chameleon. Leah is fascinated by the strange mix of people living across the street from her at 31 Silversmith Road. She'd give anything to find out more about them. So when their reclusive landlord approaches her unexpectedly to ask for some advice, Leah is more than willing to help. Toby is a failed poet and an incurable romantic. For 15 years, he's lived happily in his rambling house filled with waifs and strays until a quiet tragedy and an unwelcome letter force him to admit that it is time to move on. But how will he persuade his tenants to move on? His house is their refuge. Are they ready to face the real world? Together, Leah and Toby must help the misfits and number 31 to grow up and move out. But in doing so, can they also make their own dreams come true? And I really like the fact that in this book, we get to follow multiple people's storylines. And again, at the beginning of the book, we don't know anything about Toby or anything about the other people who live in the house or why they all live in this house together or why Toby's decided to rent out the rooms in this house. And we are drip fed the information as we go along. Again, this is an audiobook where you definitely have to concentrate because we do flip between different people's storylines, but I really like that central storyline between Toby and Leah. I think that they were both really good influences on each other because they're quite different characters who have more in common than they realize, and that always makes for a great storyline, doesn't it? The people inside the house, I didn't necessarily gel with all of them equally, but I think that I was intrigued by all of them. And that's where we see, again, kind of the fact that Lisa writes these really intriguing characters in her thrillers now. We are seeing kind of shades of that in here. The fact that she's pulling in these multiple people who are all very different but have this one thing in common and we're trying to have this common interest between them. And so, yeah, I thought this one was really interesting. I kind of didn't know how it was all going to turn out until the end. Again, like the more recent thrillers, but this one is very much not a thriller. It's just a book about really intriguing people. So if you like a character-driven novel, then you are definitely going to like this one. And if you really enjoyed Ralph's Party, then I think that this one has similarities with Ralph's Party in the fact that we've got that kind of shared house situation, and the feelings when reading Ralph's Party was similar to the feelings that I got when reading this. So it was a nice throwback for me. And yeah, this was probably the one that I was most excited about reading. So yes, this is my sort of third in the line of the 4 books that I read. Then we have A Friend of the Family, which has the same title in the UK and the US. Jerry and Bernie London, proud parents of 3 very different boys. Tony London, big bro, newly divorced, fantasizing about somebody he shouldn't. Sean London, successful novelist with writer's block and a hot new girlfriend and a burning dilemma. Ned London, back from Australia without the girl he left with or any idea what happens next. Gervais, who is who is the mysterious rockabilly Bernie has taken in as a lodger, and what does he want to do with the Londons? As the London boys have got bigger, so have their problems. Now a house full of trouble is coming home to roost, and everyone's life is about to change forever. So this one really reminded me of the house we grew up in, but in a slightly less dark way. This one also reminded me of the kind of family dynamic that you get when you read a Marion Keyes novel. And I really, even though I was doing this on audio and it was jumping between the characters and you had to kind of keep up with how the characters were interacting with one another, because it might not be kind of quote unquote their chapter, but they're talking to their brother, or you know, they're talking to their brother's partner, or they're talking to their mother, and so we have to kind of keep track of who's talking to who and how they all slot together. But I found it was very easy to keep track of in this one, and again, we're drip fed that information very slowly and we want to find out more. I really love the whole family coming back together when they've grown up and moved on and moved apart type of thing, and how the parents react differently to the children when they come back together as being older. Obviously Ned's been away for 3 years and now he's kind of moved back into the family home, so that's a little bit different in that sense, and the fact that Tony was married and now has kind of had to come back as well. It's very, very interesting, and I like the fact that we had some kind of writer's block brought in there. I wonder how much of that was maybe kind of like personal feelings. He had a very big hit kind of first novel, was very successful, and then how do you follow that up with book 2? What's going on with that? You've got this publishing contract to fulfill. How are you going to do that? I wonder if Lisa Jewell brought any personal experience into that. I don't know, we'll have to find out. But this one was definitely my second favourite of the 4. I found it very compelling, and I actually kind of binged the audiobook of this one in just a couple of days. I really enjoyed listening to it, and the narrator did a really good job of kind of separating everybody's accent, so you knew who was talking as well. Like Tony had his own very definite accent, and Ned had this Australian twang, and so I would say it was really, really well narrated. Listen to some other books where they kind of try and make people's accents sound different and it just ends up being weird, but it worked really, really well in this one, and it helped me keep track of who was talking to who and whose chapter we were dealing with now. So I really, really enjoyed this one, and like I say, I would liken it to the house we grew up in but less dark. And also, yeah, if you like a Marion Keyes, you will definitely like this one. And then my favourite book of the 4 by far, you know, those were all definitely solid, like 4-star reads, but my very, very favourite one, 5-star read that I am definitely recommending to all is Vincent Joy. This was the second one that I read out of the 4. I read this after reading 31 Dream Street, and this one gave me kind of like one day type of feels, and just a little bit like Serendipity, the movie. And I think that just because there was a little bit more of a romantic aspect to this one, and also this one gave us like a really kind of long timeline to deal with as well. We go right back to when Vince and Joy were teenagers right up to present day, and so we've got quite a long time to deal with. I think that's one of the other reasons that I really, really like this one. Let me read you the synopsis. Vince and Joy are both looking for something. In their teens, in family holidays, and in bathroom mirrors. In their 20s, in messy London flats and messy London relationships. In their 30s, in marriages that appear stable and feel anything but. 17 years ago, Vince and Joy met, parted, and never said goodbye. And soon they're going to have to ask themselves, could it be that they actually found what they'd been looking for back in the mid-80s in the holiday park by the sea? And given the fact that, yeah, we kind of go back to the 80s in this one, and this one, you know, this book obviously wasn't sort of published in the last few years, there's some really good discussions around kind of sex and consent, and even just kind of family kind of contact and consent. And I really, really like the fact that we had this one felt a lot more modern than it actually is, and so I was really, really impressed with this one. We've got a lot of different kind of romantic relationships in here, and a lot of discussion around kind of like expectations around sex within a relationship and expectations around kind of sex after a relationship as well, and I really liked that kind of openness about it. And then there was a lot of kind of will they, won't they, will we see Vincent Joy ever kind of meet up again, will this work? And there was some really, really nice like London scenes in this one that I just really appreciated. I could picture it really clearly in my head. It was so beautifully described, the kind of the feeling of the busyness compared to their like holiday in I want to say Devon. Does it say Devon, or have it just made up Devon? Holiday Park by the Sea. I can't remember where they went. I feel like I should remember where they went, but anyway, yeah, we've got the contrast between like the country and the city, and I really liked the setting. This one just clicked with me right from the word go, and I didn't want to stop listening to it, and I think I did listen to this over the course of like a day and a half. So yeah, this was definitely my favorite. I highly recommend it, but all of them will be linked in the description box below. I really recommend, if you are just new to Lisa Jewell's thriller writing, I really recommend going back and giving some of her earlier stuff a try. Ralph's Party was just fabulous. I think it's probably something I should reread, because I read it when I was 16, and then I don't think I reread it before reading After the Party when that was released many years later, and so it would be interesting to reread that one. Let me know in the comments if you would like to hear my thoughts on a reread of Ralph's Party 20 years after I first read it. That's quite a long time. But yeah, I passed that. That was one of the like first ones I was like, here, have this book, you have to read it, I highly recommend it. Here, have this book, you have to read it, I highly recommend it. You know, early booktuber days without the internet and booktube. No, we had the internet, it's fine. Probably, maybe I was telling people on MSN Messenger to read it, who knows. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see something else like this in the future, but with a different author, or just featuring multiple books from one genre, do let me know in the comments. Or if there's a particular author you would like me to do this with, then do let me know. And yeah, let me know if you would be interested to hear my thoughts on a reread of Ralph's Party, because yeah, the Vincent Joy definitely gave me some Ralph's Party vibes as well. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are subscribed so that you don't miss out on my next video, and hit that notification bell. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, but let me know why. I will be back with more bookish content for you very soon, including my September TBR and my September wrap up and my October TBR. So I will see you then.